So today's episode is going to be a slightly different one. We're going to reflect on our episodes that we've put out and the reactions that we've gotten on such episodes. We got plenty of feedback and more questions, and therefore we thought we'll make a specific episode on bullying and especially with boys dancing. I'll just read a beautiful story, a reaction of one of the listeners, and she wrote to us, I recognized so many of the things you talked about. Unfortunately, they're still very real issues. The way society around us can be so behind the times when it comes to boys in dance. It needs to change. We love that you're bringing this into the open and giving practical advice along the way. Thank you for this reaction.
So while we're making this journey and raising our son and putting him through dance training, we're in the same boat as you guys. And so therefore, please hit the like and share button and subscribe if you haven't already. Why do I say that? Because humankind is coming to an important fork. What I mean by that is that there are changes that are going to be happening in the next couple of years, and these changes are going to be huge. So there's no more important time than now when you have your children around you to have some say in the matter. And it's something that keeps us, both of us actually, awake at night because the children will have to face these realities due to these changes. And it would mean the world to us if you just send your questions and let's continue this discussion.
And some questions we often hear. Will ballet make my son gay or turn him feminine? Or a mother wants to unenroll her 6-year-old son because he could turn out gay or get bullied. Or another question that we got, my 9-year-old loves ballet, but he gets called gay at school. How do I prepare him? It's so sad when I read this.
Yeah, we deeply empathize with what you're going through right now. But let me tell you, first of all, it's not only a ballet thing, because bullying can happen for the most common and most mundane reason. I just heard recently that one of the boys was concerned about, and his classmates, also the boys, were concerned about going to the barber. Because after an haircut, they inevitably get a comment from the girls. I don't know what the comment is, actually, to be honest. But I think there's always a way to bully someone or to talk or comment on someone's appearance. Even when you're too small, you get a comment. When you're too big, you'll get a comment. If you're doing well in school, you'll get a comment because you'll be a nerd.
Yeah.
If you're not doing so well in school, you'll be called something else. So I think it's important to understand that this is actually a question about a power struggle. I mean, it's a more powerful personality is going to use their anger and misdirected energy to try and impose their will and try to suck the air out of the room and make themselves more important.
Yeah, and often the bullier, him or herself, is very unsure. So it's just a reaction of feeling small in one place and trying to compensate and feeling big in another situation.
Yeah, and actually you can feel for the person who's bullying someone. It's actually quite sad and pathetic how they have to bring that to bear.
But we must say, ballet and boys, it is a trigger for bullying.
It has a huge target painted on its back, and I think we can safely say that almost everyone will go through this phase, and the best way to get through this phase is to prep for it and to just expect it's going to happen to everyone, and therefore whether it's a ballet thing or it's a boy dancing, understand it's going to happen. And we talked about this in our episode with Stefan.
Yeah, and the first thing when your child gets bullied is the shock. That's number one. You can't believe it's happening, and it's happening to your child, your beautiful, your beautiful, perfect child. But your child can also be shocked. Well, why is it me?
Yeah. What did I do to deserve this?
So I think it's very important as a parent is to stay calm and don't project a panic. And that brings us to the second thing. Often it's denial. you just hope that if you don't do anything, it will pass on, or you say don't act upon or don't react. Just pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
But it's just important that you open the conversation, be gentle about it, and have these kind of honest conversations even before the bullying happens.
Right. And the next part that will happen is inevitably there's going to be some sort of anger. You will want some kind of justice because you're focusing on how unfair the situation
it is unfair.
And unfortunately, a lot of people get stuck here. So we would say focus on building a child's confidence, not just on confronting the school or the other parent.
And of course, it will come with sadness. Just the other day, a mom of a teenage boy said, my boy is entering the dance studio and there's some other teenage boys who call him gay in front of everyone.
Right.
It makes me sad. And that's true because it's not fair. And the sadness will be one of these things also for the boy entering the dance studio.
Yeah.
You cannot say, I don't care, because you might feel sad.
Yeah.
But it says more about the person yelling than about him.
Exactly. And then, and hopefully we come to accept that this is just a situation and this is the times that we are going through. And there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of anger about this. And so we need to have a strategy to get through this. We need to be able to act with clarity and not just emotion, because emotion brings us back to step one again. And
that strategy, what we just said already, is having those honest conversations with your child, doing role play. Like you play the bully and what are you going to say? Some kids will defend themselves with humor. Let's say, nothing about ballet that's full of pretty ladies and I'm surrounded by them, or it makes me grow strong. I know what I'm doing. Do you know what you're doing? Like these kind of phrases that you prep with your child.
Right. And empowerment and action is super important. Just by we talked about this again in the episode where you can teach your children to stand taller, to radiate energy, smile, to use humor to direct the energy around the room, and hopefully this will help you bounce back faster. And the main quality one has to learn is resilience. And it grows best when the child has at least one solid person helping them hold on to who they are. And I think I dare to say that you actually need a whole community to talk about this, to normalize the conversations around this and to bring this discussions.
One other dancer, a teenager dancer, was also bullied. And it helped that that dancer had friends, a lot of friends defending the case, but also a supportive family network and open communication with the school, and those things were in place.
And that brings us to the next thing that a lot of people remarked about on the episode was, is the dad the bogeyman? I mean, there's a statistic that says only 32% of male dancers say that their fathers support them, and that moms are also saying that their husbands do not approve of their boys dancing.
Yeah, but there was a mom in our studio who said, for me it's okay when he's dancing, but dad won't approve. So it's very obvious that is a struggle.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at that, because that boys themselves are, if you think about our dads, they're taught to be stoic, they're taught to suck it all up, not to cry, and certainly not to show their emotions, and not to be sissy, and not to complain. So if a young boy were to grow up like that, there's only one definition of that. I mean, by that I mean masculinity. Therefore, they are going to just pass it on to their own children. That's the only thing that how do we break this? If that is not the way you want your children to be raised, so why do we propagate this further?
I think you need a kind of change in the generations, because you can say, yeah, but that is how I was raised and that is what my grandfather said. But sometimes it asks for a better way. It's not because it has been there for generations already to suck it up and be a real man, that it has to go on forever and ever. So there's a changing moment.
Yeah, the times are changing, and it's for everyone, even the parents, and especially the dads. That's a question that needs to be answered. There's a question that needs to be reflected upon. The question is, what is the dad afraid of? Are they afraid of the actual bullying? Are they afraid of femininity? And are they afraid of social judgment and a loss of control? I think it's all of the above. And is the father actually protecting their son, or he is protecting his own idea of what a man should be like? How should a boy be raised?
Yeah.
And did he really choose these beliefs for himself, or did he just simply inherit them because that's just how it was accepted socially?
There's a lot of questions for the dads to dive within and answer these.
Yeah.
To find a solution of how do I want to raise my son?
Yeah, because if a father was raised to suppress his own feelings, and while he's raising his son, would he just merely reproduce the same wounds? And that's a question that Stefan and I spoke about in our episodes. Just go and watch it. We'll link it in the descriptions. The question really is whether we, as dads, Stefan and me, whether we as dads were going to be strong enough ourselves to create an environment of safety so that our sons can flourish in such an environment and feel protected and feel like they have that they have the tools to fulfill their mission, whatever that may be and whatever they most love to do. And quite secretly, if I would imagine what a son would require from a father, what are the words that the son would require? I think it's just a nice pat on the back and says, look, I'm proud of you, my child. I'm proud of you, my boy, of the person that you are and the man that you're becoming. I fully support you 100% in your beliefs and your thoughts and your actions. And I think nothing more needs to be said.
Yeah. Even when their own dads didn't say that to them, they can still pass it on.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you like this type of content, could we ask you to like and subscribe on your platform of choice and just write in the comments your questions or reflections. We promise to read and answer every one of them. Also, a lot of questions came about puberty or puberty episodes, and there is a real puberty drop-off referring to the boys and girls, but this time it's about the boys. We hear this question: my son is 14 and suddenly hates class. He says he feels awkward and he's overthinking. And the mom was asking, is this normal behavior? And during puberty, let's say 12 onwards, what specific mindset shift helps moving those teenagers from being too much in the head and bringing them to enjoying dance again? And that's a very important question.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing we would say is to accept that everyone goes through puberty and it's only a phase. It's awkward, but it's not a disaster. It's something that you just will go through. And it's one of the steps that are taken on the way, on the path to enlightenment, to adulthood, and is to understand the perspectives of life, to become that holistic being that you're meant to be, and to know that it's just a phase.
Yeah, it's a critical phase, of course. Think of the changes that are happening. Most children are moving from junior school into secondary school, and a whole world opens up. And once they were surrounded with the children that they grew up with since they were, let's assume that they were toddlers, and in middle school, suddenly everyone's opinions seem to matter a lot more, and the parents much lesser, of course. And I think every parent here would agree to that. And it takes the opinions and of the friends and maybe not even friends would take precedence over the information that we as parents want to pass on to the children.
And we hear those fears. The parents say, my child is a dancer, and it's fine as long as they're young. But the moment they change schools,
right,
it's becoming really difficult to be a dancer.
Yeah, and we have data. We have data to back this up over so many years of running our school. Like the boys are, they're so cute when he's dancing. Oh yeah, so on and so forth. The moment they hit puberty, it's just
challenging. Yes,
they vanish.
But then if you have good friends who support you along and who stay in your life, I think that's a very strong support system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the second thing would be to just default to action. It's after this comes after accepting that we just have to go through this phase, and that when we get the tools and we're giving this situation and given my capacities as a parent, what can we do about this? And to ask that question also open up the discussion with your children. And my suggestion is always default towards action, because otherwise we just get stuck in our heads as parents, but also as children. And they will just get stuck in their head. And if you ask, what do you think about this? I think the three words that you're going to hear very often in this phase is, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. But what
It's
can you
like that.
do? What can you do? We would recommend that you watch people who have moved out of that phase already. So a teenage dancer could look to an adult dancer, like
Right.
18-year-old dancer, and they could have conversations with each other. We just went to see a performance, and an older dancer was talking to the younger dancer, saying, "Hey, listen, when you're 13, just focus on the process, enjoy every moment of it. Trust the process. You'll be strong enough once you come out of your puberty. You'll be strong enough to do all these things. Don't stress out."
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we're doing in our studio. I'm asking the older dancers to talk to the younger ones and say, they say it's gonna be fine. I was also not so flexible during that time, but I got it back, or any other scenario. They're sharing that information.
Yeah, and I think Stefan also said this. Even though he was a seasoned professional, and I think I asked him if there was one advice that you would give yourself, looking back, knowing what you know now, what would you say? And he said, "Yeah, I think I would tell the younger Stefan to just enjoy the process more. I think because it'll pass." And unfortunately, it'll never come back again.
Yeah. So educate your teenager, as a teacher, educate your students and have these kind of conversations.
And I think also it's important to look at the information, the content, and the stories that one is consuming. It's easy to find doom stories and disaster stories, but I think it's also equally as easy, especially today, to find stories that will motivate you, that will
with hope.
provide you hope, indeed. And then everyone passes through this phase, and that we can reach out to people, ask them, contact them, ask your question. No question is that silly, because they will understand the feelings that you're going through right now, because they've been through it themselves. There's a common Buddhist term, and it's called Anicca, Anicca. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. But just translated means impermanence, which means that all conditioned things have a start, so they have a beginning, but they will change over time, and then it'll end. So when a monk says this too will pass, they do not mean do nothing, of course. They mean don't build your identity of what it means, about who you are around a phase, especially a temporary phase.
Yeah, and those Buddhist monks, they say acceptance is seeing change clearly, suffering less by not resisting it, and just moving through each phase with that steadiness, because no phase is final. So it's trusting this too will pass, especially in parenting. You need to tell that to yourself also, this too will pass.
So preceding the steadiness, I think that's why we keep coming back to these two words, and it's called intrinsic motivation, but not motivated by you as a parent, what you want for your child, but what do they want for themselves. And it's very, very important to discover this motivation.
So when I was questioning myself, my body was changing, and I had all these questions, I'm overthinking everything. What helped me was to find my intrinsic motivation, and it was remembering, why do I love to dance? Because I just adore dancing, but sometimes you would forget why, and you go back when you started dancing as a younger person, and then it was not all about dance technique and about corrections and about looking in the mirror and being so hard on yourself.
Just for the pure fun and joy.
Exactly. And I see that as a mom also, when I look at my child. Since he was really small, he just loved dancing and singing. He had a kind of spark and a flow, and everything was so light. And we often remind him, go back to that time.
Yeah, we just pull out a
Why
pull,
is it?
pull out a old video or a photograph, and just talk about
Yeah.
it.
When I ask my students, why do you love to dance? They'll say things like, in dance, I can be myself. Or it's a place that I can express myself without words. This is like true intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, I think it's also a reflection on how far one has come, both as us as parents, but also for your children, to see and to reflect on all how those little things have been put on your path, and you've been through it, all the phases, and that you've reached where you are today and where you are currently, standing on.
Yeah, and I remember in the interview with Stefan, he said that dance was a way to travel the world, a way to break out of where he was right now. And if you can think of that, if that is one of your motivations, that I can see the world while dancing, because they're dancing everywhere, that sparks that motivation, and that will get you through the darker times.
Yeah, and I remember a quote by Steve Jobs that it's where he mentioned that it's very difficult to connect the dots looking forward, because no one knows what that is, and it's much easier to connect the dots looking back. So, yeah, building upon that, just go through old films, old pictures, old performances, and just try and find what were the dots that were being connected, at that point of time. Yeah.
So one thing you could do this week with your teenager, with
Yeah.
your teenager going through puberty, is talk about these times when they were younger, when they really loved dance, and pull out these videos, look at it together, have conversations about it, and write down why do you love dance, and keep that feeling alive.
Yeah, so if I would look back, I think when I was going through this puberty phase, I mean, the best thing that could have ever happened to me was me joining the school band. I was a drummer, and I remember we were like so dedicated to it. So
I wish I was there.
Yes, we were so tight as a band, and we felt like as long as we had each other, we would be okay, and we were so motivated by each other, and that was all that mattered. But of course, like with all good things, they must come to an end, and
It's a phase.
it's a phase. And then everyone just graduated, and though that was amazing, and we would love to hold on to it, but everyone just graduated and went their own separate ways, and the band split up, unfortunately. Well, the result of that was that I just ended up in this desert phase again, where I had to like refine myself, and this traditional school didn't do it for me. Learning how to code was horrible. It was boring, and it wasn't until I landed up in a musical, and I came in touch with dance, that I found that motivation again. I found that joy again. I think the joy and motivation came from being able to create something from just a tiny seed, a creative seed, and watching it, like pulling it open, exploring it, putting it on stage, getting the applause for it, and also like
Here, that's your intrinsic motivation,
Yeah,
the creation part of it.
I just love the question when how is that possible? Because as the audience, you only see the final version of it, but you haven't lived through the whole process. So that was my intrinsic motivation, and I think that's also one of the reasons why when I joined dance so late, I discovered that. So yeah, it's just a reminder that you are going to hear the word resilience, and it's one of the most important topics that is circulating right now, especially around parenting and raising children. And remember, I told you about the fork in that's going to happen in humanity, and resilience is what you're going to need. And
Yeah, whether it's standing up against bullying, going through puberty, getting the criticism of other parents, why is your boy dancing? Your child needs to be resilient. But as a parent, you also need that resilience. And we will need it for sure for the future. And that's why we wrote our book, The Dance Advantage. So go grab your copy, and let's just give our children the best possible foundation to stand up on.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know if you enjoyed this kind of format where we just answer questions, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.